April 14th, 1865, a theater collapses into darkness. One gunshot echoes. Lincoln lurches forward, skull pierced by the bullet. The president never speaks again in his lifetime. That night, democracy hemorrhages in Ford's Theater while a nation watches helplessly. Yet 4 years before, no one believed in him. 7 Confederate states had already seceded. Generals doubted him entirely. His own cabinet despised him openly. This unknown lawyer from Illinois arrived at the White House as a walking obituary of failure. But something impossible happened at that moment. Depression became his superpower, strangely. Grief transformed into empathy. The man who wanted to die saved millions from death. His darkness became America's light. His wounds healed a nation. This is Abraham Lincoln's journey completely, from Kentucky log cabin to marble memorial, from suicidal despair to immortal legacy, from nobody to savior, from the margins of society to the center of history itself. Watch how a self-taught lawyer, haunted by ghosts, learned to navigate war, slavery, and his own shattered mind to birth a nation where all humans could breathe free and live with dignity. Sinking Spring Farm, Kentucky. February 12th, 1809. A one-room log cabin with dirt floor and no windows anywhere. Thomas Lincoln, a carpenter, produces a son he'll never truly understand. The baby's name, Abraham. His mother, Nancy Hanks, arrives pregnant from nowhere. Unmarried, her origins shrouded in scandal. Yet she reads books voraciously. She dreams. She teaches young Abraham that books contain entire worlds within their pages. October 5th, 1818. Milk sickness sweeps the frontier, a mysterious toxin from poisoned milk contaminating everything. 9-year-old Abraham watches his mother waste away gradually. Nancy dies at 34. The boy buries her himself. His sister Sarah follows 9 years later, dying in childbirth at 20. His adoptive mother brought another Nancy to the household. Then she dies too. Death stalks this boy relentlessly like a predatory shadow. By age 20, Abraham has attended funerals for his mother, sister, uncle, and stepsisters. He develops a philosophical problem that torments him. If everyone dies, why struggle? This question will torture him forever. But his stepmother, Sarah Bush, Johnston, changes everything completely. She arrives with 3 children and an astonishing library filled with books everywhere. She sees potential in the gangly, withdrawn boy others dismiss entirely. She whispers, "Read everything." Abraham devours books by firelight, while his father demands he split rails for profit. Shakespeare whispers to him nightly. The Bible speaks to him. Aesop's fables show him morality's complexity. He reads himself into another man. His formal education totals less than 1 year. Teachers called him unteachable. His father despised his reading, calling it laziness. Yet at 17, Abraham became the most educated person in his entire county through pure obsession. At 19, he reaches 6 feet 4 inches, a skeleton with burning eyes and restless energy. His father rents him out as manual labor. Lincoln splits rails, hauls water, builds fences. His back breaks, but his mind soars. In spring 1831, Abraham makes a decision that echoes through history. He leaves home forever. His father refuses to say goodbye. The separation is permanent. Lincoln never forgives him, yet never forgets his poverty. New Salem, Illinois. 300 souls, 1 tavern, 1 dream. Lincoln arrives flat broke with nothing. Denton Offutt hires him to captain a flatboat carrying bacon and cargo downriver toward distant New Orleans. On the Sangamon River, the flatboat catches a dam. The flatboat tilts vertically. Lincoln, barefoot in icy water, frantically shifts cargo while other men panic around him. He frees the boat successfully. Offutt makes him captain. New Salem becomes Lincoln's laboratory of transformation. He works as a store clerk, learns surveying from borrowed books, becomes postmaster. He deliberately builds himself brick by brick, teaching himself law at night by candlelight. In 1832, the Black Hawk War erupts suddenly. Lincoln enlists as a militia captain, not for glory, but survival and wages. He sees no combat, but he learns leadership by watching how men fracture. Then he meets Anne Rutledge. She is 22, intelligent, spirited, kind. For the first time in his life, Lincoln experiences romantic love. She makes him believe happiness might be possible for him. In 1835, typhoid sweeps New Salem mercilessly. Anne falls ill suddenly. Lincoln spends weeks at her bedside, utterly helpless. She dies in his arms. He collapses into psychiatric crisis, so severe friends hide knives. He tells his law partner, "I feel like committing suicide often." For months, he barely eats. Neighbors keep constant watch, removing sharp objects. His darkness deepens to a place beyond description or recovery. Yet, from this abyss, something transcendent emerges. Lincoln teaches himself law with ferocious intensity. He memorizes Blackstone. He memorizes the Bible. He memorizes Shakespeare. The study becomes medicine. Purpose displaces despair completely. September 9th, 1836. Abraham Lincoln receives his law license. 1 year later, he moves to Springfield, the new capital. He arrives knowing nobody. He owns nothing. He carries only books and unshakable determination. Springfield shocks him with its refinement. Educated people, political discussion, ambition visible on every street. Lincoln partners with John T. Stewart, an established lawyer. Together they build a practice taking criminal and civil cases. Then something extraordinary happens. The awkward frontier lawyer becomes brilliant in courtrooms. His arguments penetrate juries. His logic annihilates opponents. Newspaper editors publish his speeches. Politicians invite him to speak at rallies. But victory requires sacrifice. Lincoln cannot survive on success alone. He needs laughter. He needs community. He becomes a storyteller, filling taverns with frontier tales that make rough men weep with genuine laughter. In 1837, Lincoln enters the Illinois House of Representatives. He campaigns on his reputation as a lawyer and his gift for connecting with ordinary people through humor and genuine conversation, not rhetoric. He watches Stephen Douglas, a Democratic competitor, eloquent and powerful, with both admiration and rivalry. These two men will shape American history through their collision. They become enemies who deserve each other completely. In Springfield, Lincoln meets Mary Todd at a dance. She is from Kentucky gentry, educated, witty, ambitious. Their conversation ignites immediately. Both understand power, both hunger for greatness, both carry deep sadness. Lincoln proposes, Mary accepts. Her sister Elizabeth Edwards opposes violently. He's poor, he's physically grotesque, he'll never amount to anything. The engagement shatters on New Year's Day, 1841. Lincoln collapses into despair. For 18 months, Lincoln doesn't recover from loss. His business partner describes him as reduced and emaciated. He barely eats or sleeps. His face becomes ghoulish. Death seems preferable. Then something shifts. Lincoln and Mary encounter each other at a wedding. Their eyes meet. Something unspeakable passes between them. Without planning, they decide to marry secretly. On November 4th, 1842, they wed in Mary's sister's home. No celebration, no family presents, no honeymoon. Duty and desperation drive the marriage, not passion. Yet somehow, the union holds. Mary becomes his anchor. He becomes her disappointment and her reason. As a married man, Lincoln practices law with increasing intensity. Over 2 decades, he argues nearly 200 cases before the Illinois Supreme Court. He wins most. Success builds quietly, invisibly. Then, in 1854, the Kansas-Nebraska Act shatters his political world. This law allows slavery to spread westward through popular vote, not presidential decree. Lincoln, previously quiet about slavery, becomes a fire-breathing abolitionist overnight. He debates Stephen Douglas across Illinois repeatedly. 7 public debates. Thousands attend. Newspapers print every word. Douglas is brilliant, magnetic, confident, intellectually agile. Yet Lincoln's words penetrate deeper because they speak from conviction. Douglas wins the Senate seat, but Lincoln's defeat becomes his ascension. Eastern newspapers publish his speeches nationwide. Politicians invite him to speak in Ohio and beyond. The rail splitter becomes a national figure. In May 1860, Lincoln arrives at the Republican National Convention in Chicago as a dark horse candidate. William Seward seems unbeatable. Yet, on the second ballot, Lincoln's coalition fragments Seward's dominance completely. Lincoln wins the nomination. Party bosses expected Seward. Delegates choose Lincoln because he seems more electable, less controversial, more Western, more humble. The rail splitter shocks everyone, including himself, by becoming the standard bearer. The 1860 election arrives. Lincoln campaigns on a single principle: slavery must not expand. The South responds by seceding. Lincoln wins without a single Southern vote. The Union begins dissolving before he takes office. November 1860 to March 1861. A 4-month nightmare. South Carolina secedes first. Then Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. Lincoln hasn't even been inaugurated yet. The nation he's been elected to lead is disappearing. On March 4, 1861, Lincoln takes the oath of office. His inaugural address appeals to conscience, mystic chords of memory, and better angels of our nature. He pleads, "We are not enemies anymore." 39 days later, Confederate artillery shells Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor. The fort surrenders. War begins. Lincoln calls for 75,000 volunteers. History accelerates toward carnage and transformation and pain. Lincoln must now manage generals. The first, Winfield Scott, is ancient and inflexible. George McClellan arrives next, brilliant, arrogant, perpetually refusing to fight. Lincoln removes him. Then comes Ulysses S. Grant. Grant is a leather shop clerk before the war. He drinks too much, he chews cigars, he fights. By 1864, Lincoln makes him general-in-chief. Finally, Lincoln has a warrior who understands war requires killing. But Lincoln does something radical. He fills his cabinet with rivals. Seward becomes Secretary of State. Chase becomes Treasury Secretary. Stanton becomes War Secretary. These men despise each other. They despise Lincoln. Yet Lincoln orchestrates. Seward and Chase compete for presidential influence constantly. Both resent Lincoln's authority. Yet Lincoln somehow extracts their talents while neutralizing their egos. When Chase resigns, Lincoln appoints him Chief Justice. Rivals serve the Union. In 1862, Lincoln signs the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. It shocks the nation. Slaveholders see apocalypse. Northern Republicans debate its wisdom. Lincoln acts from conscience, not politics. A rare moment when morality overrides electoral calculation. January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation becomes official. 4 million enslaved people are declared free in rebel states. Overnight, the war transforms from Union preservation into freedom's crusade. Now, soldiers fight for liberation. Lincoln suffers visibly. Every battle report brings casualty lists, thousands dead for territorial inches. Every general failure cuts him deeply. He walks White House corridors at midnight, talking to himself, haunted by blood. July 1863, Gettysburg. 50,000 casualties in 3 days, the bloodiest battle in American history. Hospitals overflow with screaming amputees. Mothers receive telegrams. The nation staggers under the weight of infinite grief and shock. November 19th, 1863, Lincoln travels to Gettysburg for a cemetery dedication. Edward Everett, a famous orator, delivers a 2-hour speech about battles and heroism. Lincoln follows with a small handwritten card. Lincoln speaks for exactly 2 minutes, 271 words. 74 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty. He reframes the entire war. The Gettysburg Address performs intellectual magic. Lincoln rewrites America's birthday from 1776, the Declaration of Independence, not 1789. Freedom defines the nation, not government. The dead soldiers consecrate the ground more than ceremony. Newspapers print his words. School children memorize them. The address, seemingly simple, becomes the most important speech in American history because every word carries philosophical weight. Nobody expected greatness from 2 minutes of speech. By 1864, Lincoln doubts his re-election. Military victories elude the Union. Casualty lists grow. His own cabinet questions his leadership. Depression returns like an old friend. Defeat seems certain. Then Sherman captures Atlanta. The victory energizes the North. Soldiers can see the war ending. In November 1864, Lincoln defeats General George McClellan, his old antagonist. The victory signals the Union will never negotiate. The war will continue. March 1865. Lincoln's second inaugural address transforms everything. Slavery caused this conflict, he declares. God wills its end. But then he adds 4 words that echo across centuries. With malice toward none. Lincoln's speeches work through poetry, not rhetoric. He invokes biblical language, redemption, resurrection, sacrifice, tears, prayers. Americans hear not political calculation, but prophecy. They sense transformation, not victory. They feel called. April 1865. Lee surrenders at Appomattox. The war ends. The Union survives. Slavery dies. Lincoln's greatest achievements are complete. Yet one final chapter remains, one that will define his legacy forever. Mary Todd Lincoln suffers terribly in the White House. She is ambitious, difficult, brilliant, and increasingly unstable. The position of First Lady offers no protection. People whisper about her origins, her spending, her instability. In 1862, their 11-year-old son, William, dies of typhoid fever in the White House. Lincoln grieves privately, but completely. Mary spirals into depression for months. The mansion becomes a sepulcher of sorrow. Lincoln has little time for family. 4 sons exist: Robert, Edward, William, Thomas. Their childhood overlaps with his greatest struggles. He plays with them sporadically, distracted by war, death tolls, and his own mind. His law partner William Herndon describes Lincoln's character thus: his melancholy dripped from him like water from a faucet constantly. Yet colleagues also note his fierce competitive ambition and intellectual pride completely. Lincoln copes through humor, constant jokes, anecdotes, stories from his frontier youth. Colleagues find it strange, even disrespectful during cabinet meetings. Lincoln says, "If not for these stories, I'd die. Laughter is my medicine." Lincoln's law practice made him moderately wealthy. He invested in railroad stocks. He speculated on land. Yet success came late in life. He never loved money, only what it meant: freedom from poverty. As president, Lincoln wears his poverty visibly. His suits hang loosely on his skeleton frame. His shoes remain scuffed. He walks like a man with aching bones. The presidency ages him visibly. Photographs document his transformation brutally. In 1861, he appears strong, clear-eyed, almost handsome. By 1865, his face is hollow, carved by exhaustion. Grief has become his true companion. Death has become familiar. Lincoln loves Shakespeare obsessively. He reads King Lear repeatedly, seeing in the Mad King reflections of his own struggle towards sanity. Macbeth's darkness mirrors the war's weight. Hamlet's indecision haunts him. His voice surprises people completely. Thin, high-pitched, slightly nasal. Nothing like his physical presence. People expect booming authority, but hear something almost tender, almost fragile. His strength comes from words' weight, not power. Lincoln is generous, almost pathologically so. He pardons soldiers condemned to death. He finds government jobs for friends' sons. Yet, he also fires incompetent generals instantly. Mercy and firmness occupy the same space. His secretary John Hay recalls Lincoln's hands: long-fingered, powerful, capable. In photographs, they rest uneasily. A man whose body wants motion, whose mind races constantly, whose soul seeks peace it cannot find. Lincoln carried contradictions that would destroy ordinary people, humble yet supremely confident, depressed yet endlessly hopeful, kind to enemies yet ruthless toward failure. He was paradox incarnate, impossible yet actual. Strangers remark on Lincoln's eyes: haunted yet determined, sad yet capable of sudden warmth. His gaze penetrates human weakness and somehow excuses it. Forgiveness lives in those eyes. Humanity recognizes itself. Late in his presidency, Lincoln attends theater to escape the war. He loves comedies, Shakespeare performances, anything that allows temporary forgetting. On April 14, 1865, he goes to Ford's Theater to watch comedy. 1862. General George McClellan refuses battle repeatedly, claiming insufficient troops. Lincoln writes frustrated letters. Finally, Lincoln removes him. This lesson crystallizes. Weakness disguised as caution cannot serve in wartime. Decisiveness matters more. 1863. Treasury Secretary Salmon Chase and Secretary of State William Seward clash over Lincoln's direction. Chase gathers senators to demand Seward's dismissal. Lincoln, surprised, invites all to dinner and unveils contradictions. Chase resigns multiple times in fury. Lincoln accepts the final resignation and appoints him Chief Justice. Even bitter rivals can serve the Union in different roles. Pragmatism transcends resentment when the nation survives. Lincoln's depression nearly destroys him in 1862. His secretaries find him weeping quietly in his office. A visitor reports him in violent despondency, verging on madness. Yet next day he meets his cabinet. To manage his darkness, Lincoln walks at night through Washington's streets. Guards follow discreetly. He moves alone through darkness, talking to himself, wrestling with decisions that cost thousands of lives. Insomnia becomes his companion. Lincoln makes an unprecedented decision. He suspends habeas corpus. This allows arbitrary arrests of Confederate sympathizers. Civil libertarians are horrified. He justifies it simply. Can a limb be amputated to save the body? General William Sherman captures Savannah in December 1864. The Confederacy crumbles like burned ash. Lincoln visits Petersburg, the Confederate capital falling to Union forces. He walks freely through streets where slaveholders once ruled. Every decision Lincoln makes, military, political, moral, stems from one conviction: the Union must survive. Slavery is evil. Both principles combine into his war philosophy. Neither can be abandoned. Both must be honored. By spring 1865, Lincoln's face shows something new and unfamiliar: peace. The worst is past. Victory is certain. For the first time in 4 years, he sleeps without nightmares. Transformation completes itself. April 11th, 1865. Lincoln delivers his final public speech. He discusses Reconstruction, voting rights for freed slaves, reconciliation. His vision extends beyond victory toward building a just nation. He imagines what freedom requires. In the audience, John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Confederate sympathizer. Hearing Lincoln's words about black voting rights enrages him completely. Booth decides then, the president must die. Assassination becomes patriotism in his mind. April 14th, 1865, Good Friday. Lincoln attends Ford's Theater with his wife Mary, watching Our American Cousin, a mediocre comedy. He finally relaxes, allowing himself to forget, to laugh, to be human. During the third act, John Wilkes Booth enters the presidential box. The bodyguard has stepped out for a drink. Booth draws a Derringer pistol from his pocket. He aims. He fires once, point blank. Lincoln slumps forward, unconscious. He never speaks again. He is carried across the street to Peterson House, where doctors work through the night valiantly. But nothing can repair a shattered brain. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, present at death, whispers, "Now he belongs to the ages." The words capture something profound. Lincoln's death transforms him from man into monument, from president into immortality. Millions mourn. His funeral train travels from Washington to Springfield, stopping in cities where thousands gather silently in the rain. The nation, just reunited by blood, grieves its fallen leader with genuine sorrow. Lincoln's last will reveals modest property: a pocket watch, his law books, some railroad stock. He accumulated little wealth. His true legacy, political, moral, spiritual, transcends possessions entirely. He leaves no money. The 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery nationwide, passes Congress weeks after Lincoln's death. His dream manifests into constitutional reality. 3 million enslaved people become legally free forever. Freedom becomes written law, not presidential. Lincoln's depression never defeated him because he transformed suffering into purpose. His pain became empathy. His darkness became light for others. His wounds, properly tended, healed a nation's hemorrhaging. For 140 years after his death, Lincoln's reputation grows steadily. Historians debate his genius. Americans canonize him. Lincoln memorials are built. His words are etched in stone. history recognizes. In speeches worldwide, Lincoln is quoted, "With malice toward none, a new birth of freedom, all men are created equal." Political leaders invoke his name. His words transcend their historical moment eternally. What would Lincoln say about modern America? Probably, the work remains incomplete. Democracy requires constant defending. Equality must be perpetually won. Freedom demands sacrifice from every generation. Vigilance cannot rest. Abraham Lincoln teaches us that ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. Darkness births light. Depression becomes wisdom. Wounds, properly tended, transform into strength. His life proves humanity can transcend itself. From a one-room Kentucky cabin to the Lincoln Memorial, his journey mirrors America itself, imperfect, painful, yet ascending toward justice. His spirit remains alive, calling us forward. The work continues eternally.